My name is Chia Chee Sum. You can also call me Darrel. I started from computer graphics background, animations. I studied film and animation in Multimedia University. During the time in university, I sort of like got interested in making short film with digital camera, that kind of thing. Mostly I learned from watching films, or some of the experiments from the animation, and I try to apply the same kind of experiment into a live action film. 2018 and 2019, that I sort of the kind of film that I wanted to make. Personally, because I myself started from animation, computer graphics background. My filmmaking experience, the beginning, I would say it was basically started from, like some of the short experimental film that I did during university time. Some music video. After the university, I went to work in computer graphics industry, post-production industry, until the point that I actually moved to the production line, moved to the production industry to help some production company to do casting for the commercials, assistant director and things like that. That is pretty much the kind of production experience for me, the filmmaking experience. These short films are mostly not really, to be honest, it's not really travel anywhere. They are much more like a personal test, like a personal experiment kind of thing. It's like at this stage of my time, I wanted to try something. I tried it in a short film form. And until the lately 2018, 2019, I made 2 other short films. The 2018 is Highway. To be honest, that was not really something that I want to make, and I didn't attempt from the very beginning that I want to make the short film and then send to anywhere. To do a small film to see if I still able to direct, to make film. It's sort of like a test for yourself. So that was how Highway came out. I made it with a very low budget, with the place I'm familiar with and everything, and I did not send to anywhere until I just wanted to share with some friends. I just want to know their feedback. I just want to see if I still qualify to make films or not. Until some people, they ask me, okay, they suggest me to send to some festival. So from then on, I slowly share with some festival. And then I got the chance to make the next one, ARTE in 2019. For me personally, the biggest struggle at the moment is still trying to, from the beginning is more of like, as a independent filmmaker or whatever you call it nowadays, I feel it's mostly about finding what I wanted to tell. This is also a little bit about my background that I shared previously. I try to make a lot of different kind of things, but then all this kind of thing I realize those work doesn't really represent my voice, doesn't really represent what I want. My all-time struggle is always trying to find my voice, the thing that I wanted to say. I think every filmmaker has to be realistic, and someday they will have to question themselves about it. And I still question myself every time, even now, for me to begin to work on my first feature film project. For me, I always try to self-critique myself, to ask myself this question, whether is this really what I wanted to say or not, and why I want to say it this way, and why I want to talk about it. So I never stop asking myself this question, just to make sure this is something that I wanted to do. And I have to admit, from the very beginning of my so-called not so formal filmmaking path, I have a lot of problem trying to find the kind of thing that I want to say, my own style of filmmaking, my voice. The other struggle for me is also, of course, getting funding to your project, whether it's a short film or a feature film. But for short film, personally for me, short film, depends on the kind of visual quality, the kind of where you want your film to be, and what kind of film that you want to make. Because for me, short film is always something that I wanted to test certain kind of storytelling, or maybe certain kind of idea. My short film always is a very low budget, or maybe I will try to do it in a very economical way, or find a creative way to do it. But I think feature film itself, to get the funding nowadays, especially in the time like this, is quite. I would say that this is quite a challenge, quite a struggle, and I do not have a solution. I'm still trying to learn about the funding process. I'm still trying to attend the project market in the international, to learn from the international producers and the pitching process and things like that. So I'm still learning about that struggle. I mean, I personally have the kind of film or cinema that I prefer. I love film of Abbas Kiarostami. I love films of Michael Haneke. And of course, my favorite is always Robert Bresson. From the early path of my filmmaking process, I tend to have this problem of getting too inspired filmmaker that you can reference from and things like that. I have to admit myself that in my earlier filmmaking process, I copy a lot of their works. I don't feel like it's something belongs to me. I don't feel like it's close to me. From the very beginning, I would make something because maybe I like certain kind of films. A lot of young filmmakers will be through this stage. You know, I tend to make films that looks like Wong Kar-wai's. I tend to make films that look like some very famous director or very, very masterful directors. The funny thing is, for the debut feature project that I'm doing right now, whenever some potential producers or business partner or investor, they're interested in this project, and then they will ask me, you know, I see your film, I see your story, it looks like certain director, this work. And then they will ask me to try to, you know, maybe, hey, you want to, you know, put that inside your statement, some inspiration from certain director or things like that. I couldn't do that. I don't have any reference. Because when I write the treatment, I write the story, I did not think about any particular director, part of work or what. I just try to be as pure as possible from my intention. I share a little bit about my creative process. Now, for me, at the moment, my creative process, which I find it very comfortable and very rewarding for myself, is that I always base on an idea. I always start an idea based on a specific location or a space or environment, and how and what kind of feelings or relationship this location relate to me. This may sound a little bit abstract, but for example, like my short film Highway, it was based on this public housing flat that I grew up with, I'm very familiar with, and from this environment, how I can tell something, a story or anything that based on this location. So this is very much my basic creative process. For me, it starts from idea, story. Is very something that I cannot touch. It's something that very, very fragile. Because the way I observe the people living in this place, right, like the apartment flat, and it's very cute. I see the way they communicate with each other or how they live in this place. I will ask myself, hey, can I use this kind of elements, characteristic to visualize a film or not? And how I can use the space and the people together at the same time to that itself become the concept of a film. Malay young man that he will ride a bike traveling from one apartment to another apartment along the corridor. It's something that I used to and always witness at the public housing flat that I used to be, because sometimes they worry their bike being stolen, or they love their bike so much they will bring their bike to the house, to the floor where they live. That become very interesting way of living in the space for me. So I use that as a way to conceptualize the film. I'm a newcomer. I consider myself as a newcomer. I'm still a very young, fresh filmmaker. A lot for me to learn, and I still wanted to learn from a lot of other experienced Malaysian filmmakers. But I think because of our Malaysian society is a bit diverse, we have different cultural background and religious belief. Sometimes the way we look at cinema also is very much depends on our own cultural backgrounds. I always wish, I don't know, maybe this sounds very optimistic, I always wish that we can watch each other's films, we can watch each other's cinema. I try to not make this film as specifically a film for certain ethnicity in Malaysia. Cinema space is still a very important space for you to watch a film, to experience a film. I don't know this is a vision for me or not, but I just hope that Malaysia, someday Malaysian filmmaker or a Malaysian film able to achieve that. We can make a film that our Malaysian diverse society do not have to choose to watch a film based on a certain language or cultural or religious background. I'm still trying to use a different way of storytelling to reach the audience. I still want more audience to watch the film, to be honest, to appreciate the audience. So the audience can be telling the story while watching the film together, instead of being told what you want to do and being told this is the ending, this is starting, and this is what you're supposed to feel. I want audience to have the freedom to choose how they want to feel. So I don't know this is what kind of cinema, I don't know whether this is a mainstream cinema or what, but I hope that the audience can be respected, they have the dignity to feel what they want to feel, to say what they want to say.